And it wasn't until after I left the doctor, and you always get that after summary report. And I started reading through that after summary report, and she started, in there, she explained in her summary that, she explained to me that I should take medications for diabetes and for heart conditions, high blood pressure, and that she would, how'd she put this? That she would advise against not taking medication. I'm like, she never talked to me about any of this.
Russell, how did you find Carnivore?
Oh, well, um, YouTube. um, my journey, yeah, it was basically the YouTube rabbit hole, and I don't know. I guess it kind of call it fate or coincidence. Um, but obviously, I was a lot heavier of a person, and I had some health issues going on. But late last year, um, I was going into doing my routine checkups with my doctor and stuff like that. And I had already, before going into this, like in real close proximity to when I had to go into the doctor, it was November 1st of last year. I had, gone down the rabbit hole a little bit because, I have looked up things like, because I got interested in pink Himalayan salt and doing some things that are a little bit healthier. And when you start going down those rabbit holes, all of a sudden, it starts, the search starts expanding and the algorithm starts giving you different different videos. So I've already, kind of delved into that. And on November 1st, I ended up at the doctor, and I have a female doctor, and she was very complacent in her conversation with me. She wasn't really listening, wasn't really interested in what I can do to better my health. It was, she was doing the regular, check marks off the list of doctors, what they do, and oh, what pills can I give you, and oh, you just need to do this. This is how it's always been done, and it wasn't really interested in a conversation with me, and I didn't really think nothing of it. I mean, she asked me some basic questions. Have you, do muscles hurt, joint pains? How do you feel? But for the most part, that was about as far as it went. And it wasn't until after I left the doctor, and you always get that after summary report. And I started reading through that after summary report, and she started, in there, she explained in her summary that, she explained to me that I should take medications for diabetes and for heart conditions, high blood pressure, and that she would, how'd she put this? That she would advise against not taking medication. I'm like, she never talked to me about any of this. I'm like, what? What? I just didn't understand that. I'm like, wow, okay. And it made me angry, to be quite honest with you. And I went home, and I was off the next few days after that. I went home, and I really started, I from the videos previous to the doctor's appointment, I remember hearing about, carnivore diet and doing better with my health. So for the next couple of days, I just went down every rabbit hole I could find. Carnivore diet, keto, what's appropriate to eat, what's a proper human diet. I ended up on channels like Dr. Chafee and Baker and Barry, Carry over at Homestead How. I've ended up on your channel, and I saw interviews that you were doing, and I thought, we're gonna do this. Like this is simple. I'm a guy. I like steak. I like beef. I like meat. This is right up my alley. And November 3rd, so very just a couple of days after that happened, I went. I didn't ease into it. I know a lot of doctors and other people on YouTube, they recommend you ease into doing something like this. You start getting rid of pieces at a time, like stop sugar, and then pop, and then other. And me, I just went nah. I went through my little cabin kitchen I have here and whatnot, because I'm in a beautiful cabin in an orchard. But I went through my little kitchen, and I threw everything out that was plant based. I just said, nah, if I'm doing this, I'm going full turkey. So I did. If I had anything in the fridge that wasn't appropriate, went in the trash. Spices, any snacks that weren't deemed appropriate, pitched them all out. And November 3rd, I went full carnivore, and I haven't looked back since. So
Wow. And so what has happened since you went cold turkey?
Oh, well, everyone talks about the keto flu after the first few weeks. I didn't experience it too bad. At least I don't think so. I've never had it before, but from other videos and interviews that I've watched, I can deduce that I didn't have it too bad. But my stool was a bit, getting used to what was going on. I started to notice within the first couple of weeks my energy levels starting to come up a lot more than what they were before. I noticed probably within the first month soreness in joints like my knees, elbows, ankles, in my feet for standing long periods of time. That started to all go away, which was amazing. I was deemed, and just to be fair, I was deemed diabetic. My A1Cs were up and around 7.5, if I'm not mistaken. And so I should have been on medication for diabetes. I had high blood pressure. For the longest time, is pre-hypertensive, but then I had high blood pressure, and so I started to notice like I said, energy levels started going up. My blood pressure started to normalize. I was dropping weight like crazy, and we're talking like you would tell like I tell people how much weight I've lost in the short amount of time, and they're like, "That's unhealthy." Like it's just that excitingly fast. And so fast forward a little bit to around February, I ended up going to see. I was supposed to go back and see the same doctor, and like I said, my mission at first started because I was angry at her, and it's changed very soon after that. After I started to see these things that started to help my health out, my everyday life, my energy, being able to do more things and enjoy life more, I started to switch from being angry at her and being like, this is a gift. I really did something here that started as I'm gonna show you, and it turned into a journey for me and a life change. And I was on a CPAP machine. I'm still on a CPAP machine, but I'm nearing the point where I'm not going to be on it anymore, and I'm very excited for that. And my mission turned into, I don't want to be hooked to a machine the rest of my life. I don't want to feel like I'm winded when I get up in the morning because I was so big before. I don't want to feel like I'm out of breath when I get off the couch to go play with my children. Fast forward to February, I was going to have my final. I'm going to show you, doctor, even though at this point my mindset has already been changing to be like, I'm really liking this and how I feel as a human being and a person. And I went to the doctor's office, and it was a funny story because I went there and the nurse comes in, kind of asks me what was going on. And in the process of doing this, they check you in, they take your weight. And I set my jacket down and took my, she looks down at the paper, looks up at the scale, and looks down at the paper again. She goes, "You lost a lot of weight. It's not been that long." I'm like, "Well, yeah." And I weighed into the doctor at that point at 265. So I went from 315 November 1st to 265. It was February, I believe it was February 1st. And so we go into the room, and she's talking to me, any other issues, just the basic nurse questions. And so I kind of told her what was going on. And I don't know if that was a good thing or a bad thing, but she's like, "Oh, I didn't. Could you hold on a second?" And she ended up going and getting the practice manager. And the practice manager came in there and talked to me about it. She's like, "I am so sorry about that. We have a doctor that would be perfect for you." So I ended up with a new doctor and had to come back a week later to have a meeting with him and to talk about all of this. And that really changed the journey for me because he's like, "Wow, okay, well, I've never had you before. I like what you're doing. You lost a lot of weight. We're going to take some blood work." And I went, "Okay." So I had blood work done, and I got all the results back within 2 or 3 days after that. He still makes a joke to me right before I got the blood work back. When I left the meeting with him, he's like, "Could you do me a favor and just eat one vegetable?" And I'm like, "No." So, but I got my blood work back, and that was right there was I guess emulsif, just it solidified it for me. It made everything just real. All of a sudden, my A1C was down at like a 5.4. My blood pressure was normal. All my cholesterol. Obviously my HDL and LDLs were a little bit elevated, but of course they are. I'm eating. I'm red meat and fat dependent at this point. And but yeah, so it really changed that journey. And and at that point, it just kept going for me. My energy levels kept going up. I get up in the morning without having issues anymore. I'm able to run around with my children without feeling winded. And just even the short amount of time, from November to now, here we are, end of April, and I have way more energy. I get way more things done. My cognitive functions a lot better. I'm not as foggy anymore. In fact, I have the opposite problem. I'm not foggy. I think so fast and so hard and so quick that sometimes my mouth can't keep up to get it out. And so I'm not foggy. I'm so clear that I'm outrunning myself sometimes, and it's different. I've always been a thinker and able to use my mind, and this whole journey, I kind of feel like it saved my life. And everyone around me, my mother, my adopted brother, and his wife, I convinced them to do it, and they're on the same journey that I am, and they're losing weight. My mother, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, if she ever watches this, she's going to be mad at me. I believe she's turning 78 this year. I think I might be off by a year. Um, and she's on it, and because she was an avid vegetarian, would be more the word to use, not vegan but vegetarian. She didn't eat red meat. She was red meat intolerant for decades, and I got her to the point that she's full carnivore like I am, and she's noticing health benefits. Her arthritis is going down. She didn't have eyebrows. Her eyebrows started to grow back. But yeah, which I didn't know was a thing on this on this. And I say diet, but it's a lifestyle. I am fully dedicated to doing this the rest of my life, and the way that it's made me feel, I'll never go back. Like I'm to the point that I have, I guess, one vice. The little high noon alcoholic beverages on occasion. I'll do those, but they don't have added high fructose corn syrup, no added sugars, none of that. So it's like the raw basic. That's my vice. Other than that, it's water, it's meat. I'll substitute with some chicken, some shrimp, or salmon or something like that. But my main meal is steak every night. I eat all the fat. I have steak. It's either chuck steak or ribeye. We'll basically buy the roasts, and we'll make our own steaks.
That's awesome. Congratulations. And those numbers are excellent. Um,
Yeah.
I, I I'm really interested in the doctor thing though. It's like why they swapped the doctor out. It's like, oh, you need a new doctor because we can see you're taking action now, so we're gonna have to get rid of complacency, doctor.
Yeah.
It's
I don't, I think maybe part of it is they were afraid I was going to go off on the doctor. And I told the practice manager, I'm not, you know, I want to be professional and courteous about this. I was going to, I was going to give her a piece of my mind, as I call it, but I was going to do it in a nice professional way and just be like, hey, this can be done, contrary to what you think. And and that's what I wanted to have a conversation. I never got to have that conversation with her. They never let it happen. So on to a new doctor.
one thing I think bears emphasizing though is like it swapped you from you walked away from that first interaction in November angry and like just changing the way you eat and realizing the benefits it can have it changed you from feeling angry to this is a gift.
Yeah.
Life
Yeah.
happens in weird ways, some things it's just like a message sometimes, right?
Yeah, I would agree with you. I was angry at that, and my main goal was, I'm going to show this doctor that I can do this. Because on one of the it I don't know, it really rubbed me the wrong way. And all it took, that was enough fuel for me to start, what to be it fueled me enough to be able to start to see the benefits of what this could do. And then when I started to see the benefits, I went, oh, I like this. I like how I feel, and I wanted more. And it then it went from that personal anger and that devotion to like show her what was up, to feeling like, I like life. I want to be vibrant. I want to live. I want to do things with my kids. I want to see things, and I want to travel, and I don't want to be stuck on the couch and feeling like I can't walk 15 steps, because I went through all of that, and it just wasn't for me. And the more I get to experience life that I feel that it's meant to be experienced, the more addicted I am to, you know, being healthy and having energy, and not putting, it changes your perspective too. Just going to the grocery store and looking around at all the things that are on the shelves, you're like, oh my, there's like 90, 95% of the grocery store that's just not good for you.
There's that meme that goes around that's like 100 years ago, 99% of the grocery store wasn't invented yet.
Hmm. Yeah, oh, I'd agree. Like everything's boxed, everything's processed, everything. You go look at it and says Whole Foods, all natural, and you read the back of the box. There's more chemicals on there that you can't pronounce with 15 syllables each, and it's like, yeah, I don't think so.
Yeah. But just to go back to the doctor's report again, I think your situation actually shows why it's really important to be kind of following up with your doctor or checking what's happened with the doctor, because most people, myself included, probably would have left that doctor's appointment, not looked at what was written down, and
Hmm.
then the next time we went back to the doctor, we'd just be accepting the metformin and all the other drugs that the doctor was prescribing. It was just, oh, I've got to take this. Oh yeah, no problem, no problem.
Yeah.
And we don't ask questions, we don't follow up, and it just gets worse and worse.
Oh, yeah, I would agree totally. The interesting thing I really found about it is that report is that summary is buried, like, because it's the page, there was like, I think, 14 pages, but a chunk of the back of it was, because I did mention, she did ask me one question about, have you have any joint pain and stuff, and I told her that I had some ankle pain, but it was because I twisted it, not because of anything else. And I ended up with like 9 pages of, how to stretch your ankle and foot and everything like that. But the rest of it was all about, a little bit of history, my BMI, my weight, what my blood pressure read that day. But it was about 3 or 4 pages back from the front page that the summary that she gets to write in is. So it's not front and center. It's buried in the fine print, in the back part of it. And it almost seems disingenuous, dare I say it.
Yeah. So to have these dramatic results, 315 pounds down to 265 pounds, and I mean that was February, right? So it's probably more now.
Yes, yeah, I'm down into my 240s now.
Wow.
Yeah.
Um, so these awesome results, what have you had to do with your eating? How are you eating day to day?
So I would normally eat in the morning twice a day, and I would start off with bacon and eggs, and a lot of butter, pink Himalayan salt, since I did the previous salt research. And then in the evening, I would always do steak or red meat, as my main entree. I try to do more fatty meats, even though sometimes the entree would be like like hamburger meat. But I'd always go with the, because I know you can do like the 90-10, the 80-20. I'd always do the 73-27, so higher fat content. Because with Dr. Chafee and Barry and all of them, they said, the higher fat content, we need that fat, especially on the carnivore diet. So I'd always go with the fatter meats. And then I would supplement, my sides would be like shrimp, chicken. Our local store does 10 for 10 little pork chops. So sometimes I would do pork chops. And And yeah, so that's what I would do. And I'd always try to go for chuck steaks, or I'd go for a chuck roast and cut them into steaks, because they have, like, I was always told they had 2-to-1 fat ratio, just like a ribeye, or something of that nature. So a higher fat content. And I did that for months, probably until right in around February, when I started getting the results, because I started to notice that my appetite, I would eat till I was satiated, like Dr. Chafee would say, and I would start to get to the point where I only eat when I was hungry again, and I had to learn the difference between what was a craving and what was hunger. So when I started to really pick up on when I was actually hungry, I started to eat once a day. So now I'm to the point that I only eat in the evening. I eat a nice big dinner. Like tonight, I had steak, shrimp. I ended up having some chicken. What was that? It was chicken thigh. So I had a couple of chicken thighs and nice big fat chuck roast, and or chuck steak that was from a chuck roast. And yeah, cooked it medium rare. I try to make it as rare as I possibly can. They say the rarer the better. And I douse it in salt and everything, and butter. I did change my salt though. I've been watching a lot of the videos and stuff saying they've been finding a lot of trace heavy metals in the pink Himalayan, because of the quality of when it gets sold off to the different companies, and there's a lot of hard quality control. So I've just recently switched over to Redmond salt out of Utah, and where the company mines it and also sells it, so it doesn't get it processed or anything like that. So a lot more pure salt, more minerals in it, and I actually like the flavor of it better. So, and now, yeah, so now I just eat once a day, and I substitute everything else with water. I have a big water jug that I drink out of, big stainless. I've even went as far as that everything I have that I consume liquid out of, all my water, is stainless steel, or the plastics BPA free. I'm like, yeah, I went that side of the spectrum. I don't want it in my body if it doesn't belong there.
Nice. And so you've had some influence already, like with your mother doing it, and you said your brother and his wife?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I call him my brother. I'm like adopted brother. But yeah, he's a big guy. He's a little bit taller than I am. I'm only 5'10", but he's 6'2", and he was north of 400 pounds. And he carried his weight pretty okay, but he noticed he had some medical issues going on. I think he has Hashimoto's disease, and he had high blood pressure, and he's down. I think at this point he's down 45 or 50 pounds. He started about 3 or 4 weeks after I did. So it was in December by the time, I believe it was about December when he started, and he's already off blood pressure medication, and he's feeling a lot better, a lot more energy because of it. So we're slowly trying to work him off of the medication he's taking for his Hashimoto's, and starting to prove it. But we're doing one step at a time with him. He also had a hernia that he was kind of getting over as well, and all the pain for his hernia is gone. His joint pain has gone away. He can stay on his feet longer. And his wife, she's like completely against weighing herself. So she has not weighed herself this entire journey. However, all the clothes that she couldn't wear before, she's fitting into now, and they're starting to become baggy. So she's like, I know I'm losing weight. I could see it.
It's always a good sign when the clothes that were tight before start to make you look like a homeless person because 'cause they're so baggy, right? It's
Y- yeah, like and that's the thing too in this whole journey. Like I started at 315, like on the summary, and I'm down into my low 240s now. I'm getting ready to go into my third drop in pant size. Yeah, it's crazy.
That's awesome. And, sorry, you mentioned your kids. How many kids do you have?
I have two daughters.
2 daughters.
Yeah, yeah.
What do they think of dad's crazy diet?
Well, surprisingly, they're a lot more supportive than I thought they would be. When it comes to eating, I have full custody of my oldest, and we kind of share custody with my youngest. It's a situation, but they're both, when I cook my food and it's all carnivore, they eat with me and they don't really give me any flack over it. In fact, they like how I cook the meat or steak, especially when I make shrimp and stuff like that. They're like, "Ooh, I want some shrimp." And both of them are real big fanatics when it comes to salmon. So when I do a side of salmon, they have to have salmon. So yeah, they haven't given me too much over it.
Russell, you're almost you're becoming a coach now, right? You're coaching family members through this.
I try.
Um, what advice would you give someone who's wants to start carnivore?
Oh, well, depending upon your level of dedication, uh, it don't do what I did. Don't go cold turkey. It's rough. It can be rough. Um, but stick with it. If you have to start, do it slowly over time, not in like such a long period of time, but start substituting things out. Like if you have to drink, coffee or pop or things of that nature, um, substitute it with water, and then let that be it for a couple of weeks, and then start substituting other things out of it. And if you do it that way, you'll have a little bit easier transition, and you're more likely to stick with it. And I've noticed that my mother did that, and now she's full carnivore and has no intentions on going back. Like I said, when I did it, I went cold turkey on everything, and that was a little bit rough. But I had so much anger built up for what the doctor had said. Basically like, yeah, you're medically done. Just listen to what I have to say. Here's all your medications, and yeah, I just said no. I'm not going to do that. And it was that anger that turned into opening the door for me, and from there it turned into a whole different light. So, I mean, unless you have that type of motivation, I understand and I get it. I was there once, but yeah, my advice would be it's stick with it, and one piece at a time, but be consistent with it, and just one after the other, and just keep moving with it because the benefits are fantastic.
So, Russell, is there any way people can reach out to you? Do you have an Instagram or a YouTube or anything?
No, I don't. Um, I've been really toying with trying to maybe starting a YouTube or something, and kind of this is where watching like on Homestead How and seeing his journey, and I can't wait till his documentary out. I think it's called Healing Humanity. I'm like really looking forward to that. But he kind of inspires me. The more people that I've helped, and like my sister's doing it too, but I can't take the credit for that. That was my mom got her started on that one, and but I got Bob started on it, so I guess I'll take a little credit. But yeah,
It's the domino effect, right?
yeah, it is. And I've really been toying with doing that, and so that people can reach out to me, and I can be an advocate for it, because everyone, like just I went to a restaurant, which I don't do very often now because of the way that I eat, but it was a Cracker Barrel, and I can get a steak, eggs, bacon there, and I can get it with nothing on it, and I can bring my own little salt shaker with the salt that I eat and stuff. And even the waitress, we got to talking about it because they're like, "Well, this guy's ordering only meat. Like, this is only protein on his plate. Like, what diet are you on?" And it always turns into a conversation. So I find myself being more of an advocate, and pushing this along to other people and giving them the information. And I tell everyone, don't just believe what I'm saying, even though I show them a picture of me like at Halloween and they see me now. I look at them and go, look, get on YouTube, look up Dr. Barry, look up No Carb Life, look up Homestead How, look up Dr. Chafee, all these people, listen to testimonies from people that have gone through whether physical changes, medical changes, and, and take it for yourself. And I've given my number out to a few people that are like, "You have questions, text me, call me, I'll walk you through it." So yeah, I all I have is an email and a phone number. I'm not quite willing to give those out over the internet, but
No, no worries. But if you ever start up that channel, let me know and we'll give you a
yeah,
shout out.
yeah, I
Um,
appreciate that.
thank you so much for coming on and sharing your story, Russell. I really appreciate your time.
Yeah, I really enjoyed talking to you. Like I said, I've been looking forward to this all month.